What's up, everyone? This is Cheyenne B, and you are listening to 5D Marketing Secrets Radio. So here's the real mystery. How do real, spiritual-based business owners like us grow a large following of our soulmate clients who are begging to pay us for our skills and gifts? How do we increase sales and make a contribution while also making a killer income? That is the blaring question, and this podcast will give you the answer. My name is Cheyenne Burnett, and welcome to 5D Marketing Secrets Radio. Hey, you guys, welcome back to 5D Marketing Secrets Radio. I'm your host, Cheyenne B, and in today's episode, we actually sat down with Jessica Brown, who is a professional tarot reader and has been for a very long time. Now, Jessica has some really awesome advice for you guys because she not only reads tarot for a living, but she also has actually expanded into teaching tarot for a living. And so she's got multiple streams of abundance flowing to her with the same craft, which is really, really awesome. So even if you're not a tarot reader, this is some really great advice. So take a listen and let us know what you think. I just want to make sure everybody knows exactly who you are. So obviously you are the wonderful Jessica Brown. We know you're an amazing tarot reader, but you also do some marketing for spiritual businesses. So I kind of want to just get a background of you and have you explain, how did you first start into the spiritual space? Like, what was it that got you moving into tarot for as a career?
I was doing tarot readings like at work, just to when I first started learning tarot.
Yeah.
And so people were like, you know what? I want to pay you for that. You get this reading, you were accurate. Can I give you $1? Can I give you $2? Can I give you $7? I was like, wait a minute. And so I was like, you mean I can sell this? So that's when I had that epiphany that I need to go further and make a business out of it. But I didn't really do that until like maybe 2 years later. And then I started realizing I could do it online, like I'm doing with you, and I could still connect to someone's energy and do a tarot reading.
Wow.
So once I discovered that, then I started building my own website and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. So cool. So what was it about tarot that stood out? Because there's so many different avenues for spiritual practices. So what was it about tarot specifically that you were attracted to, or what was it that made you go, this is the practice that I need to be doing?
I went to a fair one time. It was one of those Renaissance fairs. I went to a Renaissance fairs with a friend of mine, and there was a tarot reader there. And for whatever reason, I'm not sure why, but I was so fascinated by tarot and how she could pick up things that were going on in my life just by looking at the cards. And I said, you know what, I want to learn that. And ever since then, I have been very, very obsessive with learning. That was over, I believe over 15 years ago.
Oh,
and
wow.
So I was studying and studying, and I would, study the upright and reverse constantly. I had index cards. I would practice on my cousins, on my friends. And even now, even though I'm labeled an expert, I still want to know more about tarot. So I'm always constantly studying and researching, which brings me to being an expert even more because I'm always constantly learning things that other people don't know. Yeah, that's what it's really about.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that was actually one of my questions, was how long you've been at this. So you said over 15 years.
Yes, it's been over 15 years.
You have background in this space. You might actually know what you're doing, lady.
I hope so, since I have a class. Right? I have a course with over 9,000 students. I hope I know what I'm talking about.
So that was actually something I wanted to talk to you about because it's on Udemy, right? Your course that you were talking about yesterday on your Facebook group page.
Yeah.
Is that on tarot specifically, or is that on marketing for a tarot business or marketing for a spiritual business?
It's actually have tarot. It's several things. It's on tarot, how to learn tarot, how to master tarot, then how to master tarot online, like how to market yourself online with tarot reading. And then my group that I have is called Spiritual Workers Sales, making sales. That is
which is how I
specifically
found you.
for all spiritual workers because I have a soft spot for spiritual workers because I know how hard it is. I know how people look at us, and I want to help them the most. So I'm always like dishing out free stuff, like, hey, if you post like this, you'll get
Right.
more comments and replies. So that's
Well,
what we
that
do.
was exactly how I found you and what made
Yeah,
me fall in love with you, because you and I are very similar in that space where we know the challenges that you guys face as spiritual healers and spiritual practices. And so
yeah.
that's what made me fall in love with you.
Oh, thank you.
Right. But coming back to what you just said, you have 9,000 students. So where are these soulmate clients of yours finding you? Because I know you have the group, right? But you've got that group, and that's got just over 100, almost 200 followers. But then you've got your tarot page, and you've got 800 followers there. But is that where you're finding your students, or where would you say that you're finding your students the most for people that have the goal to do the same thing?
Well, first, I have more than those groups. I also have
Yeah.
a group specifically for my students, which is, I believe that's like over about $400. So I have several groups, and that's
Yeah.
the key. And you have several groups on different
Okay.
topics. I have my Facebook page, which is my business page, and that's for my tarot, like who I want to do tarot readings for.
Right.
I have my students who
Right.
I
Your search.
teach, right? Who I
Okay.
teach. That's a different group. That's for just my students. And then I have teaching spiritual workers. That's a different group. I think I have another group for
Okay.
something else. So it goes on
Clearly,
and
I'm
on and
gonna
on.
need to find more groups, lady.
Yeah, I know. And I'm constantly posting and coming up with ideas for
Yeah.
it. But the Udemy, the 9,000 students come from Udemy.
Okay.
Udemy is a fascinating place to tap into new potential buying clients. And
Yeah.
majority of my sales come from my students because once
Okay.
they buy one time, you know that they are buyers, right? You know
Right.
that they're buyers. They bought my course, so now I can sell to them again something else. So I invited them to my group for just students, and then I upsell them to other stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes
I love that.
downsell, sometimes side sell, cross sell is what it's called. So
Right.
that's when the 9,000 students come from Udemy. A lot of my other sales come from YouTube. I have people that said they read my
Okay.
book. I have a book out there. I
Really?
have
What's
people.
that called?
Oh, the book is basically this kind of a short version of the course, and one of my courses, which is how to be a master tarot reader
Yeah.
online. So there's a physical book for that, and you also can get it in an ebook version. So I
Nice.
have all these open doors for people to come in, including
Right.
Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff. I don't limit myself. Wherever
That,
door can open to bring
right.
people in, I'm gonna tap into it.
So is
Absolutely.
it safe to say that you're constantly trying to create new ways for people to find you? So you're not limited to just one area that you would owe your success to. It's because you keep branching out to a magnitude of them everywhere. Is
That
that
is
fair?
correct.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
Google
because
is the number one. Yeah, Google is the number one who's where I get people calling me from all over the world.
will you tell us?
Um,
Like I know that some of our followers are really interested because you're an expert in that space from somebody who does. Is it Google SEO that you do, or what is it specifically when you say Google?
I don't do none of that stuff.
Okay.
And that's what I'm trying to teach my my
Yeah.
my my followers is that all this stuff the marketers are trying to tell you to do. I didn't do anything, and I end up being upfront. Literally,
Yeah.
like 2 days ago, a lady called me from Colorado because she thought I was someone else. She's like, "Is this Jessica?" She called me on the phone. I said, "Yeah, this is Jessica." She said, "You do tarot readings?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "You were supposed to. I was supposed to meet up with you to do a tarot reading in Colorado." I was like, "I don't think so. I'm in Florida." And she
That.
was like, "Well, I looked you up." She's like, "You're all over Google." And she's
Yeah.
like, "You all over the place." I was like, "Thank you. I'm glad to hear that." But all the CEO stuff on Google is not necessary. Paying for ads or paying to be number one on Google is not
Not it.
necessary.
I love
No.
that.
And I did everything to be on fronts, be on the first page
Right.
for free. I really didn't do anything. I didn't pay anything.
I love
Yeah.
that. So I love what you're saying because and this is one of the reasons you stood out to me as much as you did, because our goal at 5D is to help people get these these messages and healing capabilities out to as many people as possible. Well, as you well know, there's so much money in marketing, and so marketing agencies and marketers, want you to spend thousands of dollars. And you even said in some of the stuff I've read of yours that you don't have to do that. Like,
Right.
there's ways to get your information out there and to do it successfully for much, much less or even free.
Well, what we talked about, I had a post yesterday and that I did on my personal page, and we sort
Yeah.
of talked about that. And one lady was like, "Well, I had a coach that coached me," and she was like, "That's how. I mean, everybody needs a coach. I mean, that's
Right.
just the way it's going to be if you're deciding to market. Everybody needs a coach, but you need to find someone that's not going to make you spend thousands of dollars because that's not necessary."
I
Um,
totally agree.
but you do need to pay for their work on you. I mean, that's different.
Right.
but but she was like, she said something really profound to me. She said, even basketball players and professional, sports people, whoever out there that's trying to be professional singer, they all need coaches. You know what I
Right.
mean? They became
Absolutely.
professional. Even Beyonce had a coach. I mean,
Right.
Oprah had Maya Angelou. So,
Absolutely.
everybody needs someone to, even if it's just for support, to help them get to that next level. So if you're going
Yeah.
out there to try to market online, you need a coach. I had a coach. When I first started, I had a coach and it was scary. So I know it's scary to spend your money on investing yourself for a coach. And I went out and I did that and boom, I blew up. So yeah.
That's amazing. I love that perspective because that's something, and I would love to hear your opinion on this, because as I started, working with my clients in this space, it was interesting to me how many people in the spiritual community or inside the individuals who partake of the spiritual healing who want the services for free. And so
Mm.
whether you're a marketing expert or a doctor or a singer or an energy healer or a tarot reader like you, like, I believe personally that we are given gifts, and we are able to give those gifts away in return for abundance and love. And so I want your opinion on that. Like, for somebody that comes at you and says, you shouldn't be charging for this, this is a healing service and you should be doing it for free, what would you say to somebody who comes at you like that?
That is that's the like wonderful question, because when I first started doing tarot reading professionally and for money, I did have people that were very rude and very mean. And it's like, hey, you got this special gift. You should be doing this for free. And then, but I noticed when I got tricked into that guilt trip, that I
Yeah.
wasn't really making any income. And I'm like, wait a minute, I got bills to pay.
Right.
Time is money. I need to eat. My daughter needs to eat. You paying a doctor who may or may not give you the right, diagnose. You paying a
Right.
psychiatrist, but you can't pay a professional, an expert tarot reader who can tap into your inner experience, not just
Yeah.
randomly giving you pills. You know what I mean?
Right. Let's put a pill on it and make you forget that you're experiencing it, not actually address the problem.
Yeah, not addressing the core problem. And
Right.
that's what spiritual workers do. We tap into the core problem within that person's individual, personalized energy. And
Yeah.
we diagnose, so to speak, and give them the answers that they need. And it's different for each person.
I totally.
So what I did with confidence is say, you know what, I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm charging you $77 for 30 minutes. Oh, that's too
Right.
expensive. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Have a good day.
Right.
I
Or
don't waste my
don't,
time
or
with that
don't
anymore.
pay bills, but you're worth that.
Absolutely. I'm worth
Right.
more than that. That's cheap because you're gonna
I agree.
psychiatrist is gonna charge you $200 per hour. And
Right. I know.
I've been doing this longer than most people. I mean, technically you got to go 10 years for, a psych degree, but I've been doing
Yeah.
this for over 15 years. And
Right.
I'm a level of a doctorate, when you really look at it. I'm
Time
on a
wise, yeah.
level of doctorate. I should be getting paid $200 an hour.
I totally
But
agree.
yeah, and this is what I teach my students all the time. You got to understand your value and how to
Right.
price yourself. You can't underprice yourself. And that was really tricky with me at first because I am an empath as well. So I was feeling that person's problems and needing me and wanting me. And I was like getting pulled into lowering and lowering my prices. Then I realized, I can't eat off of that. I
Mm-hmm.
can't leave my job, which is not my life purpose, if I'm only selling at a price that it's comfortable for somebody else, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, Jessica. You did say something that sparked an interesting thought for me, and that was, tarot for me in my experience has not really been seen as a healing tool, right? A lot of people who, especially people who are not familiar with the community or not familiar with tarot, it's more of a predictor or a fun thing to do, like
Yeah.
a crystal ball, tell me my future experience.
Yeah.
How do you personally use tarot to heal?
I do it two ways. I don't just use tarot, like I said before. I'm also an empath. I have
Yeah.
clear essence. I have visions and all that kind of stuff. And I really become that person when I'm doing a session. I become them. And so I could see exactly what needs to be healed or what needs to be worked. And I give them that. A lot of people don't want to hear it. I get women to get mad. I mean, this is mostly women,
Right.
mad because I'm telling them, they're saying, well, I want to find my soulmate. And I'm telling them, well, if you want to find your soulmate, you have to do this and this because this is blocking your soulmate from coming. Well, I
Yeah.
don't want to hear that. I just want to know when he's coming. Well, he's not coming. How about that?
He's not coming and you feel this.
Because you got work to do. A
Oh,
lot of my clients don't want to do the work, but that's okay. I gave
yeah.
them the message. I told them what to do. Maybe 5 years from now, they'll remember and
Right.
they'll do the work. And that's the trickiness about being a spiritual worker. You got to understand not everybody's going to get it right then and there. It might be a
Right.
message they get 5 years later, and that's okay.
Do you
You know,
have clients that come back to you years later that are like, Jessica, you said this and I thought you were crazy or I didn't want to hear it and then it changed my life?
absolutely all the time. And it's the one that is the most irate, the most like, that's never going to happen.
That
That's, I don't believe in that. And
yeah.
then, like, the next day or the next week, that happened. You said it was going to happen and it happened. And now, I want to know more. And so that it's hard being an emotional person that I am, even at 15 years later, to not get emotionally upset about someone
Yeah.
going irate because they don't believe that what you predict is going to happen. And the saddest part about that, you make a wonderful prediction, a beautiful prediction, and they don't believe you.
Yeah.
And they sabotage it because
Hmm.
they don't understand that they are sabotaging that beautiful connection that you have visioned for them that's possible for them. And it's really
Yeah.
sad. Yeah, it's really sad.
How, if you were teaching somebody who was getting into the tarot for the first time and using it as a healing tool and they experience those things, what kind of advice would you give them for handling that?
For me, I had to refocus on my work. It's not
Yeah.
about that individual. What are you trying to provide for them? That's more important. What is your long-term goal? If you're always looking at your long-term goal of what you want to provide in service for people, then you won't get pulled into those individual people who can't or won't. And you got to understand that there's people that
Yeah.
can't hear, won't heal, in denial, not telling you the complete truth, is have mental illnesses. A lot of people that come to tarot readers or spiritual workers have deep emotional illnesses or mental illnesses, and you got to be able to say that's in a mental illness situation. Let me walk away. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
not personally or not
Right,
internalize
not
it.
to take it. You have to label there's something else going on with that person so that it doesn't tear you
For
up as
you.
an individual. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice. I would totally agree with that. Oh, this is something that I have found is really interesting to ask, and it's how is there a specific failure that you can remember as you say, because you mentioned, you had to move from the corporate world into being a tarot reader full time or being a spiritual practice full time. Is there a specific failure that you had or apparent failure that set you up for success later?
I had a lot of failures.
Yeah, don't we all?
Yeah, when you get into business or spiritual work, wherever that is, Reiki or tarot reading, you're going to have failures all the time. The trick is to pick yourself up every time, dust yourself off. And you also got to understand in the business world, failure is, it happens.
Right.
You have one month where you're making, your $4,000 or $6,000 a month, and then you have another month where you're not making anything. That's business. And if
Right.
you can understand that business is not for the weak, first of all,
I
but
totally said that to my husband the other day. Like, it's a
yeah,
good thing I'm a tough
it's
lady.
not like a job where you can just say, I know I'm getting paid this week. No, you don't know if you're gonna get paid this week. You don't know if next month you're not gonna have any
Right.
clients, but you can't take it personally. I've learned throughout the years not to take that personally. I learned to say, okay, these months are low. These months are not as good as the previous months. What can I do next? And sometimes I have to have more lives. I
Yeah.
need to be seen. Sometimes I need to present something else unique, whether it's switching from financial to relationship, from a relationship to life purpose, but
Mm.
also tapping into what people's fears are. If you can tap into people's fears and market that, that's how you can stand out on those low marketing times. But my
Interesting.
biggest failure I think I've ever had, to answer your question, was at the very beginning. I remember that in my mind, which is so funny now, in my mind, I thought as long as I present something, if I post something for sale, someone's going to buy. And that's not true.
Right.
There's a strategy. You have to find who your buyers are, who likes tarot, who likes Reiki, who likes, marketing, who
Yeah.
likes sales. And then you got to go deeper than that. When I find who likes tarot, I got to find those who typically buy tarot readings.
Yeah.
Will they buy tarot readings from me? And then I got to go even deeper than that. So that's the breakdown of strategy. And I think people think also that when you go out there and you see other people have like 100,000 followers, that they're automatically making that money. That's not true.
Right.
That is a very false perception of the market, because my friend who is a lawyer out there, she only had like 63 people in her group, and she was selling $3,000 programs. She would make
Wow.
$3,000 in 1 week. Boom,
Right.
done.
I
Because
can totally
it's
attest to
about
that.
confidence. It's
Hmm.
about pricing your stuff and knowing your value. And she knew her value and she knew what she was talking about, but she's also giving value, which
Yeah.
is separate from those scammers who have you pay like $3,000 a pop and then they don't give you nothing. That's
Right.
separate. But yeah, but followers doesn't mean anything. You just know she knew how to tap into who were buyers and who were not. And you can't get
Yeah.
caught in the non-buyers. Non-buyers will never buy.
Right.
They're not going to buy no matter what you do. You know,
No, I totally agree. I've
yeah,
had clients who have thousands and thousands of followers who legitimately have connections and relationships and make money from all of them. And I've had clients who have had thousands of followers and are making a couple of sales a month and that's it. And so I can totally agree with you that I've from experience seen that exact thing.
yeah.
That's crazy.
I think also people have this illusion that, along with those big groups, that most majority of them are buyers. You got
Yeah.
to understand that 10% of 10% are buyers. So if you have
Right.
800 people in your group, 10% are active in your group. So 80 people are active in your group, and then 10% of that 80 are buyers, which is only meaning 8 people out of 800 are going to be buyers, if you're
That's an
lucky.
interesting perspective. Yeah. So in order to find your niche market and find your soulmate client, you've had to really like narrow down who's actually buying and who's actually investing in your content and your energy.
Yeah, I'm constantly doing tests, constantly. I don't think people understand that I'm testing. They're like,
Yeah.
why are you doing this? That has nothing to do with tarot. Because I'm a tester. I'm always testing who buys what and what do they think about what, how they comment. I get into the mind of the buyer. I get into the
Yeah.
mind of the non-buyers because then I can map out, okay, that type of person is not a buyer. Okay,
Hmm.
let me move. Okay, this person is a buyer. Okay, let me do more work with this. You know,
Yeah.
marketing is a constant test. You're
I
constantly
totally
testing all the time.
I love that. I absolutely agree. It's a constant because everything evolves, right? As we evolve as humans, obviously our what speaks to us is going to evolve as well. Um
Technology. Yeah,
yeah,
technology is constantly evolving. Yeah.
right? That has changed. That's something to kind of circle back to something you were saying before. You've taken your tarot business online. Is there something specific that actually what challenges have you had with that? Because technically or typically in the past, spiritual healers or energy workers or tarot readers have been a more in-person experience. So what challenges have you faced taking that kind of business online?
My biggest challenge with going online is knowing, I think for me, knowing what people wanted. I I thought I knew what they want based on my personal experience in life,
Mm-hmm.
but that's separate from what another person needs. That was the biggest challenge. So
Got
that's why I started getting out there and asking questions like, okay, you know, would you like this? Would you like that? How do you feel about this? And what makes you, trying to ask questions to my followers or my group to see what they want and what's, more relevant. Even that, even when you ask questions to your followers, that doesn't mean that the majority outside that box want that same thing. You know what I
right.
mean? So you got to
Absolutely.
even do a bigger search, which is actually going out there on Google or going out there on um, Craigslist or Amazon.com and going to see what like the 10,000 to the 100,000 to a million people won't want the most.
Right.
And that's the research part. People don't want to do that. People don't do who go into marketing don't want to do that work, but you got to.
That's
Yeah.
that's something. What would you what is your opinion on this? Because I've noticed, when a lot of individuals who come into the spiritual practice space, they've attached themselves to their service or their what they do, right? Whether it be energy healing or Reiki or tarot, that's who they are, which is great. But none of them, I shouldn't say none of them, the majority of them aren't very familiar with marketing, right? And so they just kind of guess. So are you saying that's one of the worst things they could do?
Oh heck yeah. But I mean, it's all guessing. That's why I test because
Yeah.
that's what the tests are for. Because you kind of like a scientist. You go in there, you don't know what's going to be the compound. What compound that you're going to put together, what chemicals you got to put together to make that outcome. So you have to test, but you have to be focused enough to say to take whatever the result of that test and move. Most people
Yeah.
don't move once they figure out that doesn't work. They keep doing the same thing over and over again. That's the problem. You don't move
Yeah.
to something else. You got to keep moving. Yeah.
I love great advice, Jessica. Seriously.
Yeah.
And in the last 5 years, this is coming up on the last part of my couple of questions that I have for you. Um, I always like to know for personal experience, obviously, or personal gain, and for our listeners, in the
Mm-hmm.
last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
What? I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
Oh, um, what switched? in me, and as far as my belief system, is just my value. That's a big, huge belief system that changed, that made me go up as far as income. Once I understood, which every person in the spiritual worker who is a spiritual worker has, you are really priceless, because you have, this is not something a person with Reiki, tarot reading, whatever it is, it's not something somebody can get from a corner store. You know, you can't
Right.
go to the corner store and get a beautiful, accurate prediction or get energy healed. So once I realized my value as a person, how much I give, um, that attracted the people that would buy my
Yeah.
$77 for 30 minutes, that would buy my 110 or 127. Um, the highest point when that really hit me, that my worth, when it really hit me about my value, people were calling me constantly from Google, my phone number. And I had this lady who spent like $800 and in 2 weeks. And what happened was she would just constantly come back and get readings, more readings, more readings, more readings. And I was like, but if I didn't have that switch in my value, knowing my value, that would have never happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I have to
Absolutely.
pick up the phone and have to, and she said how much my price was. And that old insecurity was there, like, oh, she may not be able to afford that. How about I just start? I was like, Jessica, don't do that. $77 for 30 minutes, you know. And then she was like, oh, no problem. Okay, blah, 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 you know. And I was
Yeah.
like, cool, you know.
Right.
But
Because
if
if you
you
had
don't
listened to
test
that,
it, if you don't try it, you don't know.
right. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Now, something else that comes up is it because you have been doing this for so long, um, you've been able to position yourself as an expert not only in tarot reading, but you've also figured out how to make this a full-time career, and you're doing very well. You're a very successful entrepreneur in the spiritual field. So I know you have amazing advice. I am so interested to know what kind of bad advice you hear people give to spiritual practices.
There is so much bad information going out there. The worst of the worst that's happening to me right now is people messaging me randomly in my inbox on Facebook. Someone has told thousands of people that you must go and inbox a person that you never met, that you never asked whether or not they want to opt in, that you never seen their lives, they never seen your lives, if they want to buy something. And they're coming
What?
up with, I mean, they start out with like, "Hey, how you doing? Thank you for being my friend," and blah blah blah, and then they go on to other things to try to sell you. That is the worst thing you can do. Cold
Yeah,
messaging, cold calling is obsolete. You don't have to do that anymore. You
right.
know, that's the worst advice. I've seen so much crazy stuff. It's where do I start? That's what I
Right.
was like. Where do I
Honestly,
start with
it's
the
kind of
bad
like a
stuff?
list.
Stealing somebody else's ideas is bad.
Yeah.
I just had that done today, where I posted something a couple of days ago. Instead of being creative and coming up with their own way of posting, they literally copied and pasted my post,
Oh
changed
no.
little things, and put it on their post. And I actually said, you know, I actually wrote her on that post. I said, I'm very flattered. Thank you very much. But you know, I can teach you something else that is more unique. And she blocked me. She
Oh
blocked
no.
me. I was like,
That's
I know I'm not gonna let you copy my stuff and get
yeah.
away with it. I'm gonna point you out. I know you copied
Right.
my stuff. That's not how to do marketing, because it's not unique to your service. Her service
Right.
not even like mine. Her service was selling jewelry, and I'm doing jewelry. You know, and
What?
I'm also selling, you know, how to do business online. That technique is not going to work for her. You know,
Yeah.
it may get her higher on Facebook, because she did have a lot of people respond, because I know what I'm doing.
Right.
Um, but she doesn't understand that my post was specifically for that test that I told you about, to
Yeah.
see who was responding, what they need, how I was looking at so much more than she was doing it for.
Yeah.
And that's what people need to understand. That's a no, don't, you don't know why a person is posting something. You have to be able to tap into your own service and ask. If you're selling jewelry, ask jewelry questions, post jewelry
Right.
memes, have jewelry jokes, wear your jewelry.
Mhm.
Have pictures of people wearing the jewelry. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how to market. And if you're copying off
Totally makes
my personal
sense.
Facebook, you're
Yeah.
gonna be really confused.
Right?
My personal Facebook is my tester.
Yeah.
That's when I'm doing like several different stuff that may not have nothing to do with tarot. So you can't copy off of me. You know.
Yeah. I love that. So really stay in line with your voice and your message and your integrity.
Yeah, I think people will pick that up. If you're trying to sell something to somebody, people will be like, I don't know about this person. You know what I mean?
Right?
Because it's not
Absolutely.
unique from their soul. It's not unique from their own creativeness. Yes,
Yeah.
there are scammers who get away with this, but in reality, when it comes to the actual work, when it comes to giving people value, they fall short because it's not from their own creative and good intent.
Right.
So if
I
you want to do
totally
this long
agree.
term, you got to stick to your own good intent. That's what big marketers don't do. I mean, you do, but huge
Yeah.
marketers don't teach the small things that will get that sale because oh, somebody was trying to message me. Sorry about that. The
Oh,
bigger
that's okay.
things I can
Oh, did
teach.
we lose her? Wow, I could listen to this episode over and over and pick out something new to focus on each time. Jessica covered a ton of ground in this interview, so before we sign off, I do want to reiterate one thing that she said that really stood out to me, and that is that as empaths, we feel our clients' pain. And sometimes the feeling of how badly they need us from their perspective actually makes us undervalue ourselves by pushing us to lower our prices to try and help them. And though noble, you guys, you absolutely cannot follow your life purpose and pursue doing your spiritual work full time if you allow someone else to determine the value of your time, even if that person is as important and as special as our soulmate clients are. So keep that in mind as we dive into this next week. And if you want to connect more with Jessica, visit her at getyourtarot.com. She is actually offering free readings there right now. So snag that while you can. And that is it for this week's episode. So I will see you guys right here back next week on another episode of 5D Marketing Secrets Radio. Thank you for tuning in to 5D Marketing Secrets Radio. Please remember to subscribe and leave feedback. And if you'd like me to teach you 7 of the most powerful marketing strategies for spiritual business owners in 2019 free, then just go to 5dmarketingsecrets.com and simply download the full report. See you next time.